I do practice magic. However, I think my perspective on magic might be a little different than what other people may think.
Coffins in the graveyard, rising in the steam. Jack-o'-lanterns glowing, casting shadows on the sea. Witches brew a bubbling, a cauldron calls your name. A sip, a spell, a potion. All things Halloween. Zombies at the window, just dying to get in. Creepy spiders crawling, catching victims as they spin. Haunted houses creaking, ghosts and goblins walk the floors. Swarming bats and mean black cats. All things Halloween.
Mention the word Halloween, and one of the first images that comes to mind is a witch. Sales of witch-related items top the list each year. Our holiday fascination with witches has become an obsession. But are they real? In this episode of Halloween Obsessed, we'll break down the misconception of witches with the help of 4 modern-day witches. You'll learn what brought them to the lifestyle and practice of witchcraft.
Are we ready? Okay. I'm Ray Davis, and I am a co-owner of Calaveras Coffin Company. We're more of a Halloween decor company. I would definitely say that my beliefs align far more with what it means to be a witch, or even at times what it means to be a pagan than a Christian, for sure. Yes.
I'm Dalea Faulkner, whimsical fantasy author, film producer, and cottage witch.
My name is Roger Lockshire. I'm a shamanic practitioner, ordained minister, and ritualist with nearly 30 years of experience dedicated to nature-centric spirituality, as well as a variety of other esoteric, mystical, and magical traditions found worldwide.
My pagan name is Ethquin, and it was given to me when I made my 3rd degree initiation to a high priestess, which is what I was when I was with a coven. And then I went solitary, and that's what I do now.
Witches believe in a metaphysical world that transcends the natural world. They are open-minded practitioners of magical works who make use of elements of nature and vibrational energy.
I don't really identify with one aspect of being a witch or being labeled as a certain witch, like a kitchen witch or a green witch or sea witch, because I like so many elements from each. So I think it would be really hard to just label it one, for sure. Yeah.
For me, it was easier to kind of shed off that word and say, you know what, I'm not sure that even really accurately describes where I'm at spiritually. And so I made a choice a number of years ago to release using that word as far as describing my own personal practice. I don't have any real issue with it as a word or as a term for others, but I don't find it to be entirely accurate for me.
If I had to identify with a specific type of witch, I would say cottage witch. And what that means is really I feel more connected with what's going on in my home. Your home is your haven. So having a tidy space and having things that make it feel special and magical and peaceful, calming, warm, those are all very important to me.
Kitchen witches practice a type of herbal and holistic magic using ingredients that are homegrown or made from natural sources. They often use food or drink for their spells and infuse their energy into their work. Other names for a kitchen witch are cottage witch, green witch, hearth witch, and herbal witch. A kitchen witch can also be a handmade doll or puppet that is kept in the kitchen of a home, usually near a window, to bring good luck and ward off evil spirits.
There's a bunch of different types of witches. And all that really means when it comes down to it is that creating a spell, so take for example a kitchen witch, So as that person, he or she, is cooking, they may keep in mind they might be helping someone get through something. And so each herb, each ingredient has an intention behind it. There's a reason that they're combining all of these things. Each ingredient is done with love, and they have set an intention, something positive. And that's simply what a lot of witchcraft actually comes down to, is setting a positive intention to have the outcome that you're looking for.
The threefold law, or the rule of three, is a belief held by many witches. Some believe whatever energy is sent out will return to the practitioner times 3. Others take it to mean when something good happens to someone, that person should return the good threefold.
I started to just follow what I felt I was feeling called to, so to speak, what interested me. And along that time, a small metaphysical store opened in the town that I lived in. And the woman who owned the store happened to be Wiccan. And so we became good friends. I started to really learn that there were European traditions that spoke kind of directly to me. Some of this searching was searching for something that resonated. And I think that a lot of folks that are called to spiritual path, it is that. It's a searching and paying attention to what resonates. And so that was my real introduction into other things other than the spirituality that I was being raised in.
The terms paganism and Wicca have different meanings, although both are connected to ancient practices. Paganism is a broad term for various traditions or paths that predate Christianity and are not one of the world's 5 primary religions. Pagans worship multiple deities, incorporating the elements of nature into their rituals. Some of the better-known traditions of paganism are Druidism, Asatru, and Wicca.
Now, I think the first time I really kind of self-identified with witchcraft or witchery was when I was about 17, just before my 18th birthday. I lost my grandfather. It was very traumatic for me because I was very close with him. He'd always encouraged me to read and to write, and how every page in a book was like the key to a door and opening a new adventure in my life. And at that point, I kind of let go of traditional religious belief systems in my life at that point. And I felt like I needed to explore deeper what the world meant to me, how I felt, because losing him altered the way I felt about life and the way I thought about things.
Wicca is a nature-based pagan religion with many different paths connected to 4 main branches. Gardnerian, a tradition named for its founder, with strict rules for initiation. Alexandrian, a ritual-driven offshoot of Gardnerian. Dianic, focused on the goddess feminine. And eclectic, a combination of various Wiccan paths chosen by the practitioner. All Wiccans are pagan, but not all pagans are Wiccan. Not all pagans are witches.
The difference really I was feeling at the time between the Wiccan traditions and kind of finding where shamanism was in all of that was that, by and large, what we call Wicca and the modern witchcraft movement, in many ways, is a modern attempt to recreate what are most likely shamanistic practices that reach back far into history, that have been kind of blended with a lot of Western esoteric practice, particularly through traditions like the Golden Dawn and the occultist Aleister Crowley in the early 1900s, that helped shape what is known as the witchcraft and Wicca movement. So it's a modern interpretation of what is really rooted in pre-Christian pagan tradition, which is shamanistic. And so to me, it was kind of going closer to the source, going closer to the source of what my ancestors possibly could have been aligning themselves with and the way they practice and how they connected to spirit.
A basic definition of a witch is a practitioner of witchcraft or magic with the intention of shifting energy to bring about change. Witches arrive at their path through various means. One of the most accessible ways to learn more about witchcraft is through books.
There's a saying that says, when the student is ready, the teacher will come. And I found that to be true. I had been more and more interested in this way of life, but I didn't really know what I was doing. And this was a long time ago. And so there wasn't really anything available like there is today. There wasn't YouTube or how-to videos, how to be a pagan, or a witch for that matter. And then sure enough, when I was ready and I put that desire out there through a series of circumstances, I ended up meeting someone who actually became my first teacher. You were an initiate at first, and there were various levels of degree that you had to go to. And that's how I started. That's how I learned. I learned the old-fashioned way.
So I think I mentioned earlier, we talked about the different kind of witches, and it can be a solitary witch. And what does that mean? Well, that means you singularly have your set of beliefs and that you practice those on your own.
The title of witch applies to both women and men. Many practitioners use it. The term warlock once had a negative undertone, but is now preferred by some male witches. As Christianity spread, churches were built on or near sites of pagan worship. This allowed the church to bring pagans into its fold. At that time, pagans still held their own rituals and ceremonies. Church leaders regarded these events as superstitious practices and were not concerned. Eventually, as Christians began celebrating their religious holidays, which incorporate many elements of pagan sabbats, pagans became more acclimated to the workings of the church. Belief in witches and other practitioners of magic has existed throughout history. It wasn't until the latter part of the Middle Ages, around the time of the Inquisition in the 12th century, that a demonic connection to witches began to surface. The church outlawed divination and ceremonial magic, stating that they were heresy. In 1487, two members of the Dominican order wrote the Malleus Maleficarum, Latin for the Hammer of Witches, a book loaded with tales of witches roasting babies, castrating men, causing destruction, temptation, sickness, and making illicit pacts with the devil. It also told how to identify, interrogate, and prosecute witches. At the time, Gutenberg's recent invention of the printing press brought the book to the masses. The witch hunt hysteria rapidly spread throughout Europe.
The biggest misconception about witches is that they're devil worshippers, that they love the devil, that Satan is their Lord and Master. That is so far out there, and yet it's very commonplace. Even popular movies will have Satan as the master, and that's so not true.
The witches and wizards are those who sell themselves into the service of Satan and receive in exchange a familiar spirit.
A minister of Satan, that is.
Who gives them the power to inflict mischief on living things by supernatural means.
That is the negative to a positive Christ. That's more of a Christian thing. And witches really, they're more spiritual. There are negative energies, but we're just not jumping around with the devil all the time. That's so far out there. I don't even believe in a devil.
Perhaps in an attempt to expand their control over the population, church inquisitors, theologians, and magistrates begin to tell stories of witches gathering to worship demons, have orgies with the devil, and do dastardly deeds.
That might be the biggest misconception, is that whatever witches are doing are somehow inherently evil, or that, we're making blood sacrifices in our backyards. I mean, the craziest thing I've done in my backyard was write down a bunch of negative thoughts I had about myself and burned them in our fire pit.
Lilith, a demon in Jewish lore, is said to be the first woman. Created from the same dust as the first man, Adam, Her demands for equality brought discord between the two, and she was replaced by Eve. Other versions of the story have Lilith behaving badly and name her as the mother of Adam's demonic children. Lilith's story may be where the witch-devil connection first took root.
Unfortunately, to this day, saying that you're a witch can still bring up a lot of negative misconceptions. If you go around wearing, a pentacle around your neck or on your keys, and someone who doesn't understand what that means sees it, they automatically begin to have that satanic misconception of what it is. So many people they fly under the radar.
The pentagram, a 5-pointed star, is one of the oldest symbols known on Earth. It has been used in almost every ancient civilization and continues to be used in many cultures and religions. The 5 points on a pentagram have various meanings depending on where it's used.
Actually, the very early pentagram was considered in Christianity, early Christianity, to be a protectant against evil. It also represented the 5 wounds of Christ when he was hung on the cross. Over time, that evolved into something else.
Most witches and pagans use the pentagram or pentacle, a star within a circle. In some pagan traditions, an inverted or 2 points up pentagram is used to signify a second-degree initiation and has nothing to do with the satanic connection.
Don't fear when you see what's more commonly known as a pentacle these days, because modern witches simply use that as the spirit, water, earth, air, and fire. That's what it means. All right, let me make it very clear that Wiccans and solitary witches do not believe in Satan.
An inverted pentagram with a goat's head in the center representing Baphomet was first believed to be used in the 12th century by the Knights Templar. In the 20th century, the Church of Satan began using it as their identifying symbol.
Unfortunately, over the years, again, often portrayed in film, is just taking a blanket example or explanation of what that truly is. So often it's mixed with something evil or satanic, and that is not the history of the pentagram.
The terms white, black, and gray are sometimes used in reference to magic, which is a shift of vibrational energy that happens through intention to bring a desired result. The colors are used in comparison to the type of energy the practitioner sends out and do not necessarily mean they are good or bad. Magic itself does not have a specific color. A hex or a curse is energy cast out with the intent of manifesting mischief or harm. While some witches do perform this type of magic, many do not.
Now, doesn't mean there isn't black magic out there, and that's something that has been talked about often also in film, like I say, the good witch, the bad witch, and what is black magic. Well, there are witches out there that do practice a black magic, something that maybe is meant to do maybe something a little worse. Attention.
There are a good number of witches that practice black magic. I personally don't open that door. I know a lot of people that don't, because what you're doing is you're working with negative elements for that. I will tell you, one time I had a good friend who had a boyfriend that left him. It was one of those relationships where he was just crazy about this person, and this person just didn't feel the same and just left him. And he really would do anything to get this person back. And he had asked me, I had him do some white magic, and he didn't want to do that. He just said, no, it's not working. I really want you to connect him to me. I told him, you really cannot do that. That's something you don't want to pull somebody against their will. And if this person wasn't coming any other way, to bring him against his will wouldn't be good. So I know he went and saw someone else that did practice a darker magic, and they did get together. But a few weeks later, my friend was killed in a car accident in Argentina. And I'll just leave it out there. I can't say that did cause that to happen, but you absolutely have to pay a price for it whenever you do something against someone's will.
More than 100,000 people were tried in Europe during the witch hunts, with up to 60,000 of those trials ending in execution. Witch hunt mania began in the New England colonies in the late 17th century after several young girls, thought to be possessed, accused 3 women of witchcraft in Salem Village, Massachusetts. Fueled by church and local politics, territorial disputes, and frenzied children, the colonists made it their mission to identify individuals suspected of being witches. This began a dark time in American history that resulted in the ruination of innocent lives. The Salem witch trials took place from February 1692 to May 1693. In all, 200 accusations, 20 executions of women and men, and 5 additional deaths of prisoners accused of being witches occurred. 2 dogs thought to be witches were also executed.
The term witch is an interesting one in that, on the one hand, it's used today as a reclaiming, and I understand that, and I get that. And there is a power in that reclaiming. But it was used for so long as a derogatory term, and there was so much pain and loss of life, quite honestly, for people being accused of using things like plants as medicine and connecting with the cycles of nature, maybe living a little bit outside of society, things that are not at all crimes when you look at these things, just people living their lives and living simply. The term witch is one that I understand why people will reclaim that term and use that as we're going to reclaim this, and this is kind of wear this as a badge of honor now that you couldn't get rid of us, so to speak.
In the first half of the 20th century, Margaret Murray, a British Egyptologist, became intrigued by European witchcraft and published several books on the subject. One of Murray's followers, Gerald Gardner, also wrote a book, Witchcraft Today. It is considered to be the premier book for the neo-pagan Wiccan religion.
Different practitioners really brought it to the masses now, and then they started writing books. There's a publishing company called Llewellyn that would publish a lot of magical books. So all of a sudden, you didn't need to find a teacher for a year and a day kind of study. You could pick up a book and read it.
What happened for me was, as I was growing up and into my teenage years, I started to get very interested in things that would be considered New Age. I was exposed to what was accessible to me. And so the local bookstore and the New Age bookshelf in the bookstore had everything on it from, clairvoyance and psychic ability to UFOs and Bigfoot and witches and the paranormal and all things kind of under this umbrella of the New Age movement, so to speak.
Well, the tools of the trade, really all you have to have is an intention. You don't have to have the wands and the cups and the candles, but they're a lot of fun. Everybody likes to have them. And I certainly have a collection, but it's really focusing your intention on what you want.
So if I were to say that I was striking an intention out there, I might use candles for that. There's so many different things that people use to send an intention out there. One of the easiest ones is using different candles. Different color of candles mean different things. A white candle is often used to pretty much cover everything.
When working with magic, a witch must know exactly what they want to accomplish. Their intention is always stated clearly in a proactive way.
Altars are another way to direct or focus energy. So mine is sitting behind me. I have a variety of different crystals, items, and things on my altar that represent different things to me. So each altar is going to be different because it's a very personal space.
Magical tools on a witch's altar are functional and symbolic items that are used by the practitioner during ritual and spell work. Altar tools might include a small ritual knife called an athame, a pentacle, candles, a small cauldron, sigils, incense, a chalice, water, salt, herbs, and representations of the god and goddess.
Wands do very much the same thing. They are a tool to direct energy. Now you have a wand with you all the time that you don't need to buy. It's right here. This one was made by my parents and was given to me as a birthday gift for my 33rd birthday. And I'm just very much in love with all of the love, energy, and intention that was poured into this and was given to me.
Before any tools are used, they are blessed and consecrated, or formally dedicated for a specific purpose. Most witches consecrate their tools with salt, water, and incense. Magical tools can also be charged with the moon energy by leaving them out on the night of a full or dark moon. Tools charged during a full moon are used to manifest desires. Tools charged during the dark moon are used to banish the unwanted.
The besom is a witch's broom, and they're just nice to have, but you can use them in magical work. You can also use them for hand fastings. When I was a high priestess, I used to perform hand fastings. We would sweep the area clean after the couple had united. You can use them for flying or magic, all different kinds of things. They're just a fun thing to have. I don't know any witch without one.
A besom is made of twigs, brushcorn, or other natural materials. The besom is symbolic for sweeping away negative energy from a space. In the Middle Ages, it was thought that women applied an ointment of hallucinogenic herbs to the handle of the broom and mounted it for absorption through the skin. This flying ointment may have been used for astral projection or to help women with their monthly cycle.
And I have a few different types of brooms, and they're used for different things. Some of them are decorative, and some of them are for ritual use. One of the main ways I use brooms is to sweep my front porch, to sweep away negative energy and make space for positive energy to enter my home.
Nobody really knows how witches flying on a broom became associated with Halloween. One possibility is Samhain, an ancient Celtic harvest festival. During the time of Samhain, farmers would leap and dance astride poles, brooms, and pitchforks in their fields under the light of the full moon to encourage the growth of strong crops for the following year. Somehow, this morphed into witches flying on brooms through the night on their way to orgies with the devil.
Before you start working, you cast a circle, and a circle is just your protective space, because there really are things that we don't know. Even if we can't see them, we don't know what else is there, and there are negative energies. So what you do is you would cast a protective circle around your working space, and that would keep out negative elements.
To keep a circle safe during ritual, witches call to spirit guardians representing earth to the north, air to the east, fire to the south, and water to the west. Some witches prefer to work skyclad, a term that means ritual nudity. They believe that clothing interferes with the natural energies of magic and the elements. A familiar is an animal, imp, or spirit in another form that helps a witch with magical work. Once thought to be associated with negativity, familiars of modern witches now act as assistants, protectors, and loyal companions.
The Book of Shadows is a witch's book of pretty much anything. It's your own how-to book that you write. Your favorite spells, if things you like, different herbs, anything that you feel is going to help you with your studies or your practice. You can change it, they change. You can have multiple books of shadows. It's nice to write in pencil if you're doing any kind of spell work or work with herbs so that you can change them. It's pretty much anything. It's your witch's Bible, so to speak.
Many witches perform rituals for different rites of passage in addition to other magical works. They use a wide variety of tools that include tarot cards, a crystal ball or mirror for scrying, pendulums, runes, a dowsing fork, and crystals. Numerology, astrology, and divination are also used in some types of magic.
I think my perspective on magic might be a little different than what other people may think. As far as film and storybooks, even my own, magic is displayed in this very whimsical and physical manner where things are transmuted right before your eyes, or you have one thing and then all of a sudden it's turned into something else. And from my own perspective, we all possess the ability to create change, to manifest, to transmute energy, because at the heart of it, that's science-based. We are all vibrating at certain frequencies. We are all energy. Everything is vibrating. And so the way I practice magic is through intention, and that is something we all have access to, whether we tap into that or not. So I practice magic regularly. I set intentions when I make myself a cup of tea, when I lay down at night and think about my day and how I want tomorrow to be, when I'm in nature with my son and setting the intention of creating a peaceful moment for us and just being present. I feel like there are so many missed opportunities in our lives because we're moving so quickly and there's so much hustle energy and motivational energy, which is good at times, but if we don't stop to really appreciate what's going on around us, then are we really living?
Wiccans and other pagans on nature-centered paths tend to follow an ethical guideline of conduct called the Wiccan Rede, which encourages respect for all and ends with the words, "And ye harm none, do what ye will."
Yes, there's some things that you don't really reveal. I wouldn't show my personal altar that I use now. My name was private for some time, but now I'm not in that coven anymore. My name, Ethquin, that was given to me at my 3rd degree initiation. I now have a different name that I go by that I'm not going to share. Some things you just don't tell.
The ancient Celtic celebration of Samhain marks the end of the harvest season and the beginning of the dark time on the Wheel of the Year, an annual succession of seasonal events. Modern-day followers of nature-based spiritual paths celebrate Samhain as one of the greater Sabbats or festivals, celebrating the cycle of the seasons.
Samhain is the time of the year on the Wheel of the Year. It's known as a greater Sabbat. And it is the time of the year where you would plan for what you would do for the following year for your planting, because you're going into the dark time. And so you're not going to be harvesting. Your harvest is pretty much finished. And then you're going to plan for your planting season the next year, the following year. And for that reason, Samhain is thought of as the witch's new year, the pagan new year, because it's a time to reflect. It's a time to think about where you want your year to go, how you want your life to be for the next year. It's a good time to make plans.
Samhain was also thought to be the time of the year when the veil between this world and the afterlife is at its thinnest, allowing spirits of the departed to roam freely on earth. For many, this was a welcome time as they prepared special meals and offerings to share with the souls of their beloved family members and pets. Not all people welcome spirits during Samhain. Those who may have wronged a departed soul in life, or who believed that mischievous spirits could cause them harm, would wear a mask or costume as a way to hide from such souls. This practice of dressing in disguise eventually evolved into the Halloween custom we know today.
Yeah, so I celebrate Halloween now on the one hand, like lots of American families, with jack-o'-lanterns and trick-or-treating with our family and decorating and all that, which we love, and we love those traditions. But Halloween, also known as Samhain, traditionally, is actually a religious holiday. The religious aspect, the spiritual aspect of Samhain is rooted in Irish and English traditions, Gaelic and Celtic traditions, where folks would honor their ancestors and those who have died. There are beautiful ceremonies that I've taken part in, both as a participant and facilitated, to do just that, where we take the time to remember our ancestors, remember those who have passed on, to literally call them into our ceremony. It's a beautiful experience, and this is where Halloween enjoys all the fun stuff, you know, kind of like a Hallmark holiday. But in reality, there are roots to this holiday that are incredibly special. and can be very sacred.
The celebration of honoring departed souls is also reflected in other paths, such as Christian celebrations of All Saints and All Souls, and Dia de los Muertos, or Day of the Dead, which stems from Aztec traditions.
Most years is within a group, we have each person call by name a loved one into the sacred space. And this goes around the circle. And as each person calls out to their loved one that's passed on, everyone responds with, they are welcome, or she is welcome, or he is welcome. And usually by the time we make it around the circle, there isn't a dry eye to be had in the ceremony, because not only is it a beautiful experience in the honoring, but there is a sense that there is a real presence, there's a real energy, there's a quality that comes through that, whether they're actually there in spirit or not, we can sense that. We can sense something in that honoring allows us to feel that connection again.
I love Halloween. So with the modern traditions of Halloween, yes, my family and I totally go out, we dress up, we go trick-or-treating, and then when we came home, we actually tried something new. Even my husband kind of participated with this. I never force my family to do anything with me. It's always just an open invitation that they're welcome to join me. He got out some photos of past family members of his and some letters that were written to him when he was in basic training in the Army. And I put them on my altar and just really took a minute to be grateful and thankful, looking at every photo and each piece and what it meant to have all of these beautiful souls in our family that they're not physically with us anymore, but they're still with us. Their words and their teachings and their vibration is still with us. And so it was a really beautiful moment for me. I was very emotional for a few days.
Halloween has always been my favorite holiday because we used to make a big deal out of it at home. My mom used to dress up like a witch. We used to have parties. We used to go trick-or-treating. It's a magical time. It's time to have fun and let loose. You can disguise yourself in a costume. You can get as super witchy as you want. And there's all the connection. The Wheel of the Year, Samhain, it's a new beginning. It's the night of connecting and communicating with departed souls. It's just an exciting time. It's fall, it's fun. It's my favorite holiday.
Yeah, Halloween has always been one of my favorite holidays, if not my favorite holiday, for many reasons. I have so many memories as a child. I was able to walk for neighborhood upon neighborhood trick-or-treating as a kid, and it was just always just fascinated me. What always got me was I knew that there was, even as a child, I knew that there was something more to the holiday than just walking around and saying trick or treat with a bag and getting candy. It just felt like there was magic in the air.
It all kind of came about over my love of Halloween, which started many, many years ago. And part of Halloween that I think is all in our collective consciousness is witches. We think of witches when we think of Halloween often, but we don't think about them in everyday life. And witches do exist still in the 21st century.